co-presenter of She Went for Her Dreams. I'm so super thrilled to be here with you today. At She Went for Her Dreams, we really believe in women just boldly pursuing their dreams and doing the work that they feel called to do in the world. And sometimes that's not always an easy path or an easy journey to take. So through courageous conversations and opening up and sharing our real stories, we hope to just inspire each other and to connect and to build community around our stories through truth, honesty, and storytelling. So I have here with me Gina Helfrich. I'm super thrilled to have her with me today. So Gina is an expert in women's leadership and gender equity. She has over 12 years of experience as a diversity and inclusion leader. In July 2015, Gina co-founded Recruit Her, a woman-owned recruiting and consulting firm committed to making the tech industry more diverse and inclusive. Pretty rock star. Gina excels in helping people and organizations to realize their full potential through effective communication, capacity building, and strategic relationships. She values work that creates social good with particular passion for education and gender equity. So without further ado, welcome Gina. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Ariane. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's dive right in. So the first question I have for you is just to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started on your career path, and how did you know that it was the right career path for you?
I did not know at all. I was a philosophy major in undergrad, liberal arts education, big humanities nerd. And I had no idea what to do after college. And I really liked school. And my professors kind of encouraged me. So I went straight to grad school to a PhD program in philosophy.
Sure.
And I did my graduate work at Emory University in Atlanta. They had a really prominent and well-respected women's and gender studies program, PhD actually, the first women's studies PhD. You know, college professor track, where you just keep jumping through the hoops and eventually you get tenure and then you kind of ride off into your career sunset. But that's not at all what happened to me. I went looking for jobs in the winter of 2008 when the bottom fell out of the economy. And there are already not very many jobs for professional philosophers, and there were really none at that point. At the same time, I had been on a completion fellowship where all I had to do was sit in an office and write my dissertation. And I found it very isolating and kind of depressing. So I was like, maybe the life of, publish and teach is not for me. And I was also kind of coming to grips with the fact that I was going to lose most control over geographically where I lived, because you just have to go where there's a job when you're in academia. So like roughly 6 months, kind of working 3 part-time jobs after my degree, just trying to figure out life. And I very, fortunately, kind of stars aligned, saw a position to be the assistant director at the Women's Center at Harvard, which I applied to and was ultimately hired for. And then also, totally not in my plan, 3 semesters in, my boss and now beloved friend decided to move on, and she was actually going to do the professor track. So she's an assistant professor now. But she left and then supported me in moving up into the director role there. So I was at Harvard for a grand total of 4 years. And towards the end of my time there, I'm very type A. So I've been planning for a long time. What am I going to do after this? And I did not really know. So altogether, I transitioned into working in technology, and I moved to Austin, Texas, where I live now. And so I basically networked my way to a position in a startup company, and I worked there for a year. And then, as is very common in startup life, which I didn't know at the time, I got laid off after a year. Terrifying. But I think that really brings us to, why we're here now, because at that moment, I once again was kind of faced with having to answer for myself what I wanted to do, what I wanted to pursue. I heard that another person was doing consulting for tech companies on these issues, and I thought, I can do that. Someone else is doing it. That means I can do
Absolutely.
it, right? I was interested in the consulting piece, and everyone I spoke to about my business plan said, if you're going to help these companies become more diverse, will you give them people to hire? And I said, I don't know anything about that. So I hooked up with Ashley, who is a recruiter.
Right.
That was kind of where it went.
There you go. Yeah.
I also had basically it was very important, a day job. I got a new one at a technology nonprofit doing communication. And so that supported me and the kind of early stages of the business. And then kind of late this spring, I took a big leap and did recruit her full time for a few months. And then very sadly, for a lot of different reasons, it just wasn't going to pan out in a sustainable way. So we had to make that hard decision to close down. And
of course,
now I'm in transition again. So
it's
very lengthy, but all of which to say, no, I have no idea. I mean, I have no idea, but it's more that I have, it's turned out that I've had to just feel my way a lot. And that's kind of how I landed. Well, on the one hand, it's this inclusion and diversity piece and a definitely special resonance around empowering women and girls. And on the other hand, that education part is really important to me. Even though I left higher ed, I spent many, many years doing that, and there's still aspects of the various organizations and activities that I'm involved in that are very much about education and teaching and learning.
Sure. Okay. So there's one part in your journey where you left full-time work and took the leap and said, I'm doing this, right? Take us back to that time. What went through your mind? What was sort of the process that led you to ultimately make that decision? And how did you make that transition?
It was almost like I was forced to do it by circumstances. I have never been skydiving, and I don't really have any desire to go, but I'm pretty sure if I went, if I weren't strapped to someone who was like, here we go, I don't think I would go, right? And so it was kind of like that. So, circumstances were such that I have to do the thing now. So my business, shortly after she quit her full-time job to do it full-time, she was working full-time on it before I was.
Right.
And I was kind of supporting a lot of the business aspects through my other job, and her personal situation was fortunately such that she could work on it full-time without compensation for a while. But she found out shortly after that she was pregnant with her first child. So that due date was upon us. And, we were, it was so wonderful. We had achieved a lot of interest and traction, and things were really heating up with the business. So it was basically a situation where it was inconceivable how it could really continue on the path that it was on if no one was available to do it full time. And the person who was available to do it then was me.
Right.
And so I was like, well, I have this dream, and it's always been the goal that both of us would be full-time on the business. So if it's going to work, we have to try to make it work now. And if it doesn't, we'll figure it out. But that's basically how
And I love what you said there. If it doesn't work, we'll figure it out. Right. So it's like, you didn't know the answer, it's like, okay, there's a possibility that this may not work, but I trust myself to figure it out. And I think that's just so key, especially for women, to just learn to trust ourselves that we can figure things out when, things take a left turn, and, we can count on ourselves to do that.
For professionals who leave the traditional working world to be entrepreneurs and run their own businesses, if and when those individuals return to the working world, typically they return at the same level that they were when they left or better.
Okay.
And same goes for salary. So they either go back to making what they were making, or they might make a little bit better money.
Right.
Because now they have kind of the street cred of having their own business for a while.
Yeah.
And so when I found this study, I was showing it to my business partner, like, we're going to be okay no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, this is what the research says.
That's great. That's amazing. And that actually leads me to my next question. So what do you think were the top 3 lessons that you learned in entrepreneurship that you're now taking with you?
There's many, many people who have great experience and knowledge and who are generously willing to share it with you. But a lot of that information is conflicting.
Yeah.
People will tell you completely different things about the same decision.
Yes.
And so people, I think someone referred to it as like advice whiplash. I was like, yeah, it's very accurate.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
So given all of that, at the end of the day, I had to really learn to just trust myself, right? That I was the person who knew my business the best. I was ultimately in the only and best position to make decisions and judgments, on kind of on my own account. And so I think even though it probably feels terrifying, and maybe you're suffering from a severe case of imposter syndrome, and you've been faking it for a long time, and you're like, when's the make it part happening? You just have to trust yourself.
Yes.
You rely on your own capability and your own best judgment, and then at the end of the day, things kind of rose or fell because of you, and of course external circumstances.
Absolutely. And it's sort of like a muscle too, learning to trust yourself and make decisions from that place of just confidence and knowing, and, doing it once and then doing it again, and, and really sort of strengthening that muscle, and it becomes a part of you. It's second nature. It's, sometimes we talk about intuition, right? And really having that sense of what, is sort of next for you and what decision feels right.
Yeah.
So that leads me kind of to my next question, and the decision to close Recruit Her, right? So such a difficult decision, I'm sure. And walk us through that part.
I wasn't sleeping because I would just lay in bed staring at the ceiling, like going over and over all of the business problems that I didn't know how to solve.
Sure.
It was becoming unhealthy for me.
Yeah.
And so that was a big kind of red flag. And then, at the end of the day, the balance sheet speaks for itself, right? So I don't have any, like rich aunts or uncles kind of float me while I figure it out. So ultimately just the necessities of supporting myself exerted themselves. And, that was also true for Ashley. And so we said, we gotta call it now. There are people who will go to extreme lengths to kind of keep the dream alive. And some of those people, beat the odds, and they make it and have amazing stories. And they'll tell you about the time, they've maxed out 5 credit cards and it all worked out okay. But those people are the exception. And I think for both of us, our risk tolerance did not extend to that level. So we're like, well, we're just going to say that we gave it our best, and now is the time to walk away.
Absolutely. I see that as courageous, really, both to you and your partner, to really just sort of like stand in this and say, this is what we're willing to do, and this is what needs to happen, and make that decision from that place.
Yeah. Well, maybe kind of to harken back to your prior question, that, that's a great piece of learning as well. I think it's really important to identify and understand, and then really enforce your own boundaries.
Yes.
Because definitely I found that other people wanted me to make different kinds of decisions, and I had to say, like, nope, this is where I'm drawing the line.
For me, absolutely. So do you feel like Recruit Her was a failure? Why or why not?
Yeah.
And what are your personal thoughts on failure?
Most people, when asked, oh, you dared greatly and failed, like, do you think it is a failure? Most people would say, well, no, because I learned thus and such.
Right.
And, there are many wonderful things that we took away. We built this wonderful community. We really promoted a very important message, and I could sort of list all of those positive things that we created and which continue to exist, even though the business doesn't exist anymore. But I want to say it was a failure, like we tried to make a sustainable business and we did not succeed. And I think that's a definition of a failure. But I don't believe the fact that the business was a failure is something that we should be deeply ashamed of, right? It takes, people keep telling me how brave we were to do it. And at the time, it just felt like what I needed to do. So I didn't have, maybe the same perspective as I did when it got really scary. And then I was like, okay, this is the thing, we're going to do it. But, trying and failing is still an achievement. But it was a failure. Right? And I think failure is something that I have personally struggled with a lot, to embrace as something positive. I think it's valuable, right? I have definitely found that the effort and then going through the process of understanding myself as someone who took that step and now is reorienting after having taken that step is valuable.
Absolutely. And, you said something earlier about, not being ashamed of the failure. It's like, this is the failure. And, this is like, it doesn't have to sort of be something that we wear as part of like something to be embarrassed of or ashamed. It's kind of going back to our earlier conversation around your career story, right? This has now become part of your career story, and it has molded and shaped your character in a way that if you didn't take this step, it just would be a missing part of your story, right? And for better or for worse, it's an experience that you can speak to. But I love that, and I think it's so important that we don't, it's hard.
What I have found is that there is often a big gap in my self-perception and what other people perceive about me or the situation. So, we're very fortunate to have had a huge outpouring of support when we announced that the business was closing, and people saying, we just think it's so great that you did this. I can't believe it work. We're so sad for you, but, I'm sure your work will continue in some form or fashion and you're going to be fine. And, it's like I got a whole cheering squad, and I was like, "Well, this is great!" I need this, Yes. So having that kind of external perspective from other people, and having other people kind of tell you how to feel about yourself in a positive way, at least for me, has been really helpful.
Brilliant. So tell us, as we kind of wrap up here, tell us what's next for you.
Well, I'm feeling that out. So it's definitely been a journey. I feel like there is its own kind of mourning process, losing the business and the particular vision that I had built for myself and what my life would look like if that had gone differently. And so it's been kind of, I took a little time to just like recharge and not worry about it for a minute. And all of my stores were 100% empty. So I was just kind of like rebuilding all of that and be more like a normal human again. And so I'm trying to keep an open mind about what my next step might look like.
Sure.
I also know from personal experience that it's very difficult to predict what the thing is going to turn out to be.
Sure.
So stuff just tends to, fall from the sky or appear in left field, whatever metaphor you want to use.
Right.
It's like, oh, I guess this is the thing. I didn't realize that would happen. So I think you can prepare. You can try and be well prepared and kind of keep an open mind, and then hopefully, you make your own luck a little bit and the right thing comes along. So, I'm trying to do a lot of good discernment about what feels like the right direction. And I'm not sure I can totally articulate that right now, but I feel like it's coming into focus.
Yes. So one last question before we wrap up today. What piece of advice would you give someone who is, ready? She's at the cusp of just like really taking the leap and going for her dreams and really just, walking that path. What piece of advice would you have for her?
To prioritize self-care. One aspect of self-care, for example, is making sure that financially you have what you need to support the attempt. Because, having to give up sooner than you wanted to because of financial realities can be heartbreaking. Yes. So as much as you can prepare yourself for that leap, do it.
Absolutely.
And secondly, I think because most people who launch their own business, go into doing work for themselves, if they're a freelancer or, they're at a startup, you name it, that work is so consuming and can be, so fundamental to how you come to think of yourself that I think it bleeds over and can take over your whole life.
Sure.
And then again, it's hard to draw and maintain boundaries. But if you don't find ways to take care of yourself, to step away and recharge, to pursue other things that give your life meaning and value aside from the business, I think it makes it that much harder to weather the ups and downs, which are extreme.
Yes.
When you're in business.
This has been so wonderful. Thank you so much, Gina, for coming on.
Thank you, Ariana. I really enjoyed it.
Please keep us posted on your next step and your next endeavors. We want to hear what you're up to for sure. Okay? Great. So thanks again. And we're signing off for She Went for Her Dreams. Take care.